Hey, can anyone hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Hello.
Test, test. Okay. Yeah, sorry. My audio decided to reset over the night. I'm here now. All right. Let me see who's in here. Do. Good, good, good. All right. I think we got folks here. Um, I'm going to kick this off. We have limited time today. My apologies for that. Just had a few little conflicts here at 8:30 our time, so we only have half an hour. The agenda for today is fairly simple. We've been talking about this a bit internally, and our thoughts right now are trying to work more closely with a couple of our current partners with marketplace and marketplace servers who have expressed some interest in this. They have some ideas around some things we can do as at least these initial first steps for the community. And we are going to talk about that a little bit. So the folks we have on right now are we have some people from the Hive, from Orville, and also from CubeCraft. And they all bring some different stuff to the table. And the interest here, I'm trying to think how to do this. I guess the what we'd like to explore are a couple of different angles on this. One is our work with the Hive. They make Chunker amongst other tools. They already have access to source code, which allows them to have a very direct view into what is going on with the code, and looking at if we can go and bring on some staff with them who can do some of the things we talked about, directly answering and addressing community requests for more information, planning out the protocol documentation, also looking at triaging bugs and trying to actually get pull requests in for bug changes, which would be fabulous if we can pull it off. There's also Orville, who have a lot of interest in and some expertise in the way that BDS server currently works, and are very interested in trying to work on, I guess, improvements to that platform, which is very useful for us. And then finally, CubeCraft, who manage the open collaboration organization, which is potentially something, a channel we can use to try to bring together a slightly more closed community that can have more privileged access to provide ways in the short term that we can fill some of the gaps left by removing the PDB from general public access. I am going to stop there for a moment. I don't know who's here from the Hive.
I am.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it's just me, Yuri. Hey,
Or just say a thing or two if you feel like it.
can you hear me? Picking up my mic, right?
No audio now. Goodness, sorry. All right, so I'm probably talking out.
I
Apologize.
can hear you.
Let me try to figure out what's.
Okay, so you all can hear me. It's just
Can you
Donald
say
doesn't have
something
audio.
again? See if I actually have audio now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh boy. All right.
Take that as a no. I think it's just Donald that doesn't have audio right now.
Oh my gosh. Somebody try to say something.
What's up?
Hello, hello. Can you
Something.
hear us? Stay with us, Donald.
Uh, Testing one more time.
Hello.
Oh my goodness.
Hello.
What is going on? My apologies, everybody. I don't know what happened to my audio over the weekend. It has completely gone off the rails. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Oh boy. I may actually have to try turning it back on and off again. But one more time, please try.
Hello. Test.
Hello.
And nothing. That's fabulous. Hey, look at this. Please, folks from the Hive, Orville, and CubeCraft, talk a little bit. I know we had talked about if you want to just say a few words and if you have some ideas for discussion starters. I'm going to try to come back in just a minute and hopefully my audio will be fixed. So I'll be back.
Yuri, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll guess we just do quick introductions because I don't think like everyone's all that aligned, but I guess at least some background and then this kind of our understanding of what is and isn't happening. So I'm Yuri from the Hive CTO. As Donald already mentioned, we work directly with Microsoft on Chunker, which is actually going to turn into a open source project this August. I'm not entirely sure if that's all that helpful code-wise to anyone in here, but kind of show what we do in that area, as well as in the server space. We've been working closer with Microsoft over the last year to kind of provide better protocol support internally, kind of champion the needs of the server community, both third party and just the broader community to try and improve things there. And then, yeah, Donald last week invited us to kind of join these talks to see if there's any overlap, alignment, or something that can be done to just help the more modding side of things as well. But our focus is definitely on the server side. Let's see if you want to go next, Ed.
Yes, hello. I'm Zed. I'm from CubeCraft. We run a kind of arm's length non-profit support body with open collaboration. So we kind of support key open source projects we've identified in the mainly server space. So kind of Cloudburst and the protocol libraries there, and Geyser. And we've been doing that for several years. Yeah, we're keen to support the modding community however we can. And as Donald says, and as probably Yuri's kind of mentioned, we kind of only got approached about this last week. So we don't have too much context on exactly what that would look like just yet. I think those conversations will happen. But I know Jaden and Alex have been involved in this group already, and both of those work with open collaboration projects already. We had someone from Orville here as well. I think I can hand over to them, Marshall.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. So I'm Marshall. I'm the technical lead at Orville Studios. We primarily work on marketplace content, but we have a very strong interest in modding BDS. Primarily, we're kind of interested in looking at introducing some sort of official plugin API to kind of have like a united front with the community and Mojang. That's pretty much it for me.
So I guess whilst we wait on Donald, my main question that I also asked him. Oh, perfect timing. Can you hear us this time, Donald?
Earth to Donald.
I'll take that as a no.
Hey, everybody. Could someone
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, I can hear you. Okay, I switched my headphones.
There we go.
Something.
Perfection. We just finished some basic introductions, and yeah, I was just about to kind of lead into seeing where what we all do may or may not align with what people here are interested in. But I think you are a lot more equipped to handle that, Donald. So if you want to take it over.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I missed out on all that. So, yeah, I think today, the hope here was just to introduce this. This is going to be a little bit information light, but I don't know if there were some things, Yuri, we had talked about, if there are any questions you have for the community right now that you wanted to just bring up. Anything to start a conversation.
Yeah, kind of similar to what you and I briefly talked about is, of course, especially at the Hive, we kind of come from a slightly split perspective. A lot of our expertise is in multiplayer. However, thanks to Chunker, we also do have a pretty deep understanding of the client internals, and then as well as some kind of more private Minecraft experiences we've run. We do mod BDS from the other direction, so we for one of the projects that we run kind of separately from our commercial products, we do run a modded BDS where we use the official code to kind of put it behind our proxy system, just implement some extra security features. So we do have pretty broad knowledge in some of the areas that might overlap with the interest here, but when it really comes to pure Minecraft modding, like literally like injection, overriding stuff and all that, we are a lot lighter on that just because we do come from a more taking the original and then modifying it directly. But definitely very interested if there is overlap there, and especially when it comes to improving multiplayer protocol, when it comes to, indeed, as you mentioned, Donald, like getting fixes in, prioritizing and working with the teams. That is very much something we have done more so over the last year, but also for basically since 2019 when we kicked off our collaboration with Microsoft. That's definitely where we might be able to help, but just kind of figuring out where that overlap exists and doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think this is the thing, and this is the caveat here is, I mean, you have your own, basically your own server backend. It's totally different implementation from BDS, but you do have to understand changes about the protocol as as new versions come out. You want to, I mean, could you explain maybe at a high level just sort of how you go about doing it? Obviously, I think it's a little different because of the access you have.
Yeah, we still very much rely on the protocol documentation. However, one of the most active conversations that we've had more so over the last year as multiplayer has become more important to Microsoft is improving that documentation, just because I think anyone here that has worked with it very much knows that it comes from an angle of kind of pure data dumps with maybe, if you're lucky, a markdown file every now and then. So yeah, as Donald says, we do run our fully owned server stack. We are not on BDS except for the few outside projects that we have done. So very much we do have a lot of knowledge there because of the re-implementing. Not to say that that's much different, and of course what CubeCraft does on both their own platform as well as the open collaboration stuff. But we, on top of that, do extra quality assurance runs for every version, as well as try to really aid Microsoft when there are protocol breaking things, aka when they break servers in a way that they didn't see coming, and helping investigate all of that. So really, when it comes to kind of updates, protocol and all that, that's where we have expertise and can help. But yeah, as I said, less so on the direct modding side.
So on the note of just the documentation, do you have your own internal version of protocol documentation that you maintain to like kind of track all of the details and subtleties here?
Yeah, we run extra tooling on top of it. So we do still start off with the protocol documentation, but on top of that, things like item definitions, block palettes, and this other data collections we do separately. I must note more and more of that has already been published by Mojang independently through their like scripting GitHubs and some other data points. But yeah, we do on top of that run our own pipelines on that.
I wonder about that. How much of it has actually been published, and that's one thing I think would be easy near-term thing to do is start to look at if there is some of that information that we can clear to get released in some way. But
Yeah, and I must note they've been very open to that as well. Just the various team, especially the creator team that works on editor as well as marketplace features. They're normally kind of the go-to, and they've been really good at releasing more and more publicly on GitHub. But of course, there's always more that people need, and probably things that I'm not even thinking about right now that could definitely be added to that.
switch over. I'd like to hear a little bit from Orville. Orville's situation is a little different. They don't currently have any access to source. They are very interested, though, in improving the existing BDS rather than opening up their own, creating their own server platform. And that is something we would like to see. I think it aligns well with work that we're doing right now to try to improve BDS for multiplayer in general. And I don't know, Orville folks, if there's anything you'd like to kind of drop out there right now or talk about some of your desires in this space.
Yeah. So we believe that BDS does potentially have the abilities to host like a server platform with some work. We've been working a little bit with BDS internally, experimenting with our own implementation of a plugin API, and we would inject, code in the game. We'd load modules, and then we'd, add hooks and end up kind of, adding in some of the support that platforms like Spigot, Paper would add. Um, but we'd like to go ahead and kind of address a lot of the more core fundamental issues with what BDS currently has right now with performance. Um, a lot of potential, little security concerns that might, you know, make it a challenge to host a server on it currently. So we do have a lot of interest to go ahead and, improve BDS for both our own purposes and for everybody else. And not to mention a lot of the cool things that Bedrock has to offer with, client integration with its behavior packs. We think that there's a lot of cool stuff to be done potentially. So that's our reasoning. We'd like to see BDS kind of flourish and, have a platform to kind of grow off of.
Yeah, and then I think finally, Zed, you're on as well. Do you want to say anything about Open Collab and just kind of the mission of it? We've mentioned it a couple times, and I still honestly don't even know if it's a great fit, but I just have a feeling it might be. So I'd love to hear more about sort of how you run Open Collab and
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically our brand we use to invest in open source Minecraft development, whether that's for the Java side or the Bedrock side. I mean, I guess for background of KubeCraft, most of you will probably know that we run a heavily modified version of the Java server underneath our Bedrock network. We don't use Geyser, but we use some of the same libraries, and so we kind of took a slightly different approach. But I mean, we've done a lot of work with we use the we used to use the PDBs internally for kind of reverse engineering the game, and especially when we were playing around with authoritative movement stuff, we reverse engineered most of that out from just debugging the client, and some chunk stuff. I guess from our side, I guess we are looking to just support. So whether that's what we've done on the server side is we produce Cloudburst Network protocol library, which is used by a lot of different projects on the Bedrock side, and we use kind of the knowledge we have as a server partner to produce that. That's a very kind of long-standing arrangement we've had with Microsoft to allow us to do that. And yeah, similarly, like a lot of the work that we've done on reverse engineering the client have kind of gone into those libraries. Most of it is a protocol layer, so we have implementations of, say, server authoritative movement, inventory, chunks, and all that kind of stuff, which are then implemented in Geyser or implemented in Cloudburst Network. But we're pretty familiar with the modding tool chains as well. I guess where we see ourselves potentially fitting in is if there's a group of people we're often we kind of basically support maintainers, or like we have maintainers of some of those open source projects on staff, so that they then fall under our Microsoft NDA and do better work for us, do better work for the OSS projects.
So, question on this, because I mean, with you like maintaining, parity with protocol changes and stuff, are you still using the PDB to do most of that work, or are there other avenues that you've been using?
Yeah, I mean, I've got our protocol devs in here, so I might ask Alex and Owen to give a bit of and Jaden to give a bit of an overview on that, because they are more technically involved. So, Alex, do you want to pick that up since you're doing one at the moment?
Yes, sure. Hello. So, yeah, we're doing protocol updates. We're still quite dependent on either PDB or the Linux alternative for the symbols, because the documentation, even now, is either just wrong or doesn't provide enough context. So, usually what happens is I just get the protocol docs, just go over the changelog, but then use the actual PDB or symbols to check the actual changes. So yeah, PDB is still quite important for us.
Okay, good. Well, not good, but good to know.
I mean, I guess
right.
the thing from that is that the work that Alex does is then put into projects which go open source, and so the knowledge does get out there, and so which is why projects like Geyser and other those are pretty compatible with protocol, because it's based off kind of the fact that we have access to the symbols and can reverse engineer it within KubeCraft.
So, and I know we've had a little bit of discussion around this, just in terms of ways we could work with Open Collab, and could we do something that to maybe have some of the tools be closed source to try to like partition off access, but still provide kind of the hooks and things that people need. I don't even know if this is really a feasible route. I know there was some discussion. I think it was in. Yeah, I am curious. I know. I'm sorry. I don't have a very clear idea right now, so I am just fishing basically. But
I mean,
yeah.
I guess we want to promote wherever possible an expanding and flourishing kind of modding scene, and so actually, I think, although there might be some closed source tools which project maintainers use to say, let's say if Amethyst modded, they have a private tool which generates, for the hooks that they've selected and all that kind of stuff, generates a magic blob which can then be part of their open source repo. But I think it is quite important that wherever possible we keep as much open and able for new contributors to come into the space, even if they then can't then do, like, say, a Minecraft update, because that requires a maintainer to use the private tools and all that kind of stuff. I think we'd really want to be able to have new contributors be able to jump in and use modding frameworks and mod Minecraft as a not part of the core group, but using kind of sanitized APIs, which some of these kind of key ecosystem framework projects kind of provide.
Yeah, I imagine this as being something like some rings of trust, I guess, as we like think about. I agree with you completely. We need to make it easy for new people interested in the space to get involved and have some place there. It can't be something like you have to go through, a full job interview and sign a bunch of NDAs and things to even try to understand if you want to even play around in this space. It's not good. So if there's some way that we can, think about people maneuvering up through, I guess levels of trust, showing they're part of the community, and then giving them more access. This could be a very great thing, although obviously would require a lot of structure we don't have right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Java scene, like, you have, or kind of the classic. It's a bit more modernized now, but kind of the classic. If you go back to Forge, 7 or 8 years ago, you kind of had MCP, which was Sarge sat in a room kind of putting out magic mappings, which then Forge and stuff built on. But then as a new modder, you kind of just relied on the Forge framework and APIs, and actually a lot of the magic of hacking in and modding Minecraft and patching the launcher and all that kind of stuff was hidden complexity, and only the kind of like that inner circle of trust of core maintainers required that. I think that kind of model could still work, and we all know that with Spigot and Craft Bucket, there is a similar circle of trust where there was direct access to Mojang for some of their developers, and that helped with that. Sorry, I've got a playtest session going on in the background in the office at the moment, so sorry for the excitement.
No worries. That's awesome to hear. Yes. And I know again time is short. I do apologize for that. I am curious if there's anyone from the other, other folks who are on the call here, any questions folks have, or anything anyone wants to say right now.
If I
Well-
could just mention something.
Yeah.
I'm Seb. I haven't introduced myself here yet. I'm Seb. I'm a developer at Galaxate, one of the other featured servers. Just to kind of add to what Alex mentioned earlier, for when we do protocol updates on Galaxate, we don't necessarily use them to know what changed, but we do heavily rely on a lot of data generation. I know, Donald, I've sent you a message in the past detailing all the data that we use, that sort of thing. But a lot of it is like very niche and requires specific formats. So that's just something that I think I haven't really heard it mentioned, the data generation sort of thing. All I've heard is like the modding and hooking.
Well, I
come out
mentioned
of
it
that.
in the first meeting.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that one, so I might have missed something.
Yeah, this is something that we need to talk about as well. Is like there are a lot of different uses for the PDB, and we want to try to support as much as we can, but we also know that we have to start with the things that are going to have the most impact to the most people in the community, just so we can get the ball rolling and show that we can bring value quickly. It's our time here is limited. My thought for right now is I've asked the folks, and Seb, you are also
Mike moved my
also
conflict, by the way.
welcome.
If we don't want to go
Sorry?
the whole hour, Donald. If we want to go
Sorry?
the whole hour, Mike moved the conflict that I had, so it's up to you.
I do not know if that'll work. I don't have a lot more content right now, because really what I want to do is I would like to have I want to have some more conversations with the server operators, and I want to talk a little bit about this. I've asked them if we can work together to put forward a proposal for the community, think about what we can do immediately with the resources we have, but then make a formal ask, so that we can go up the chain inside of Mojang and actually try to get some support for this that will help us to make things work a little bit better. So my thought right now is I'd like to open up another text channel on the Discord here to allow us to have a bit of a conversation. I'm also going to set up some internal time with the server folks here to talk a little bit more about this. But I think for now, I mean, we told people we were going to do a half hour. I think we should stick to half. Unless, I mean, if you want it, I just
But if
don't
you
know
want me
who's
to
gonna-
quickly respond to Reed's message as well, because that's funnily enough something I brought up in the original call we had internally.
Sorry.
The message Reed put in chat, if you want me to quickly answer that, because that is funnily enough what we actually discussed in that call we had
Sure.
on Friday.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah. So very much that is something that's come up a lot pretty much since I think these servers even existed. They're very much interested in it, Microsoft, of course, but what Donald is looking at here is very much the short-term solutions to keep things moving. Like, as you've seen with scripting, as you've seen with, for example, the MCC server have done, that they are working a lot on allowing you to do more with BDS, interact more with BDS, open it up more. The reality is, because BDS is born out of the internal server that used to be once part of the client, then became a separate deliverable and all that, there is just a very long path towards something like that. And especially at the size Minecraft is and all that, like efforts like that do exist. Like with scripting, they're getting closer all the time. That you'll always see more capabilities there. The reality is that things like that might just take years, where I'm assuming, Donald, you're looking at the time frame of hopefully months here rather than years. So it's like two different conversations in that, but I definitely do think that that is an end goal that everyone would love to see, because a powerful, good BDS is better for everyone.
Yeah, and I will say, well, I do want us to see some progress in the next couple of months for sure. But I do want this to be a process over years. I don't think we can come up with a real solution in just a couple of months. But so a
100%.
little bit of both. I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too here. Aaron is typing something. If anyone else has other questions, you can drop them in the chat, or if you want to come on audio, you are welcome to.
Yeah, so I do have one question.
Sure.
So yeah, we've been talking about how many people have been talking about how the best solution would be one of the best solutions would be to have like whatever solution be open source. Since it was decided that BDS debug symbols wouldn't be public, how doable would open source actually be? Like, would that be allowed in the upper chain?
So one thing that has come up is the suggestion that we could try to create a reference implementation that would be open source, that would provide at least some subset of the information that's available to folks. So it's definitely I don't know if that is what you were looking for, but that is something that we have talked about.
Okay, I was just asking because my impression is that if the symbols would be removed, then open source would probably be disincentivized as well.
To some degree, certainly open sourcing all of BDS is probably not something that's going to happen. But there might be half measures that we can pursue. I know this is something that, particularly with the engineers in Mojang, that is, it's a little contentious, but there are folks who support. And I'm just looking what Oyatan is writing here.
I mean, I can jump on that a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you're right. Obviously, both Hive and ourselves. I know Hive do some dedicated BDS stuff, but most of our experiences are really kind of, fresh box or kind of, well, ours is a Java box kind of use of it. But I think there's kind of two problems going on. There's the technical problem of actually implementing any way of getting modded hooks and whatever that technical solution looks like. But I think there's also a problem of how the Microsoft works with the community and gets the information out. And that is something that both Hive and with stuff like Junker and we've done with stuff like Open Collaboration and the protocol ducks have got experience in. And so there is common overlap there. I think we know that the technical requirements are very different, which is why I think both I don't want to speak for Clank, but we both kind of said that, we don't have perfect alignment on the kind of current activities which we do. But we're both obviously excited and would be keen to support. I guess if that answers your question, I just think there's kind of two sides. There's like the governance, how do you get the information and the symbols out or whatever you need to do to get it to work, and then there's like the technical side of it as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's about finding overlap, right? Where a lot of the stuff we do is relevant to a lot of the people here, and some of it completely isn't. It is finding about what is needed, what is required, what is wanted to keep things going. Where, of course, like we can't drop in here. It's like, oh yeah, BDS is open for all now. Like I think that very much is a realistic thing that might just not happen or take years, but short term there is a lot that can be done from these data sources from different open source projects. So yeah, I definitely think people are aware of that problem. Is just one is easier to solve than the other.
Yep, I think that's exactly it. We understand that like the mission of the marketplace server partners is a little different from the open community, but they already have a lot of this access. They already have tools. I think looking near term, it's like, are there things that are used by server partners that we can possibly support to make them more openly available to a broader group of people? I do think that just thinking about kind of the long-term health of multiplayer on Bedrock, it's in the server partners' best interest to sort of like encourage and support the community. We can see that like CubeCraft has already, taken steps with that, and Hive providing things like Chunker is like there's and can we let's start from that point rather than start something entirely new. Let's build off of what we have and see if we can kind of expand it. And starting with those points of overlap and then creating opportunities for creating more things that are specifically for the modding community. Let's see. Looking at
Also, that is also the reason Donald has people like Orville here who do use the BDS, who do intend to use the BDS, so things progress at multiple areas at the same time rather than just in one area.
Exactly. Orville has the specific interest in this. They are perhaps like the most closely aligned in some ways because of their desire to like expand and improve BDS directly rather than just replace it. Yeah, I see a side conversation about the plugin infrastructure needs more information. Okay. So, just going forward here, we are just trying to bring things together, try to have a better idea of what we can do close and near term. It would. I don't want to. I don't want to get ahead of us and say what we should do because I do need to talk to folks. I do think it would be useful to start to collect uh, specific areas and gaps. And this is something I've been sort of asking for, and I don't think we've really gotten to a point of it. And people are welcome to tell me that it's something they can't do, but I'd love to know where where the gaps are in the protocol documentation. What are the things that are missing? Even if they're, if it's like we need more information on this, that's great. Or it's like there's an entirely different piece that we get through the PDB that is not here, and I need much more specific information about exactly what this is. And that's what I'd hope to. I want to definitely open up a channel around this and just try to get an idea, at least some first steps. Doesn't have to be exhaustive, but like let's go for some low hanging fruit. Like there's a thing that we don't currently have access to. We can hand it to these folks. Go and try to get it for you and see if that whole round trip works properly. And if it does, then we can expand it out and try to do more and more in that space. As a separate thread here is I'm going to talk more to CubeCraft and talk about open collaboration. I would like to see perhaps we can go and start sharing PDB in like sort of a more closed context. It's not ideal for me because I don't want to just continue to give PDB and that kind of removes everyone's motivation to help us to replace it. But it might be a thing that we need to do just to try to keep some of the lights on in the near term. Yeah, exactly, Lucy. This is the kind of stuff like, and I don't expect it to be. I don't want anyone to go and spend 30 hours going through and documenting every detail. Like throw a few items out there and say, what about this? We don't have this. Can you go get this? And let's go and try to grab these just to see if we can make that round trip work.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lucy hits the nail on the head in that the protocol docs provide how the client and the server talk to each other, but what you miss is all of the gameplay mechanics. If you look at a lot of the support requests coming out of third-party servers, it's usually about how does the client actually react to certain packets? What is the server vanilla implementation around knockback, combat, spawning, redstone engines, all that kind of stuff? Because that's all. That none of that is actually documented or provided to the server partners. We still have to reverse engineer it out.
Right. And this is in the protocol documentation in the repo. There is a section for it for supporting docs, and we can, at least that's the hypothesis right now. Can we populate that? Can we provide some of this more special purpose information? And I don't know what you think, Zed. Do you think this is just like a fool's errand, or is this something that we can actually have a chance at trying to provide value with?
I can also take it if you want, not to take that.
No, go for it.
Yeah, a lot of it is just not documented anywhere, like even internally. There's magic blobs, such as I think the chunk definition packet, which is magically generated by the server based on internals and doesn't exist. Things like chunks are documented on how they used to be, I think 4 or 5 years ago, kind of like the Tommaso age of Minecraft, but hasn't been maintained since. So I do think there'll be a good amount of things that need to be documented from scratch because they just exist as either magic values or computed values based on the source code. But yeah, as Zed already listed a ton, Lucy already listed a ton, things like default values and all that should just be things that are either exported or documented and provided publicly. There's no secrets in there. They're all this kind of like mind knowledge that you need to do now that there isn't a reason it should be like this.
Well, and I know this isn't like your your wheelhouse necessarily, but Oyuten mentioned like at the end of the day, we need to know where the functions are located to make things work. And I'm wondering if there is something short of PDB where we can provide, like, is there a subset of memory
I think
locations?
it quickly becomes a legal question based on who told the teams at Microsoft that the PDP should be not published anymore. Like, obviously, that can't just be generated based on the build. I assume it is, to my knowledge, already being generated. It's just a question of how much are you legally, ethically able and willing to share is the bigger question there. Like, the data exists. That's the truth.
Yeah, and it is just a matter of like understanding how much of that needs to be exposed and whether we can expose it. But I think the first step
with the
to that
security
is
trade-off as
understanding-
well.
the first step is understanding what it is that people need. And I know the easiest answer is everything, but this is not the path we can take. So can we know at least at the beginning, like what are some of the most useful things that we can keep updated? And I'm also seeing what Lucy's saying about allowing the community to contribute to the docs. Absolutely, yes. It's just we don't have a round trip there. And that comes back to this, it's like if we open this up and you put in information about, providing more information about the docs, then the next time we generate the docs, that's lost. We don't have like a wiki. We don't have a meaningful way to preserve that
Well,
information.
what Lucy is talking about also perfectly kind of aligns with what your plan is anyway. The issue right now is protocol docs are responsibility of a specific team. That team doesn't have the bandwidth to directly interface with the whole community, but as part of Donald's plan, having teams, various people, and all that act as that middle man, so to say, then that would be easily doable. It's just keeping a communication channel clean, which is definitely possible.
Exactly.
This idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think with modding, you obviously have the slight benefit that if you're modding BDS, actually a lot of the vanilla behavior is obviously already in BDS, and really the question for the modders is how they can interface and hook into it, and which is why for us as server implementers, all the internal documentation, all that kind of stuff of how game mechanics works is very useful, and for the modders it might be useful to have a broad design document on why it's working in a certain way, but actually at the end of the day they do just need to know where they can hack in and inject patches and code to make changes to the BDS at runtime or pre runtime.
So I have a question. It kind of ties into all this, but it's slightly different. So certain worlds are encrypted. So like if you download like a marketplace world, that world's actually encrypted locally. And like one thing like my tool Arbitral can't really read those worlds. I mean, I've reverse engineered the process to decrypt a world when I needed it. But one thing potentially interesting question, and how it would be approached for security and stuff would be like, would it be possible to like open source the process that you could, someone who owns a world could be able to like pull data from that world with like external tools if that is an encrypted world? Does that make sense, my question?
No, not exactly. So,
Okay.
well,
So like in order to protect marketplace content, like if I download like a specific world that someone has uploaded to the marketplace that has maybe custom behavior packs and stuff on it. That world is actually encrypted locally on my device.
Yes.
And in order to decrypt it, one, you have to know the encryption format is doable. But you also need to like fetch a key. Someone needs to be able to log in to the servers and like download the key to decrypt it. And so tools like our Bedrock, can't access any data in those worlds. So like if, my kid bought a Skyblock world and I needed to change some stuff on it, I own that world. That's a world on my server. But my tools were like useless on it. And so it's kind of a thing that, sort of ties into the,
I have a feeling we, because effectively that's a DRM protection on marketplace worlds and IP.
Yeah, it is.
And I think they don't really want us poking about in those worlds. It's the same. Server resource packs can be encrypted, and that it's fairly trivial to decrypt them, but it is just meant to be there as a deterrent to. I think the focus of this group is more on the modding of the BDS and the tool chains around that, rather than manipulating the encrypted worlds.
I mean, true, but that also is one reason. I mean, I've heard people complaining for years that they can't run these kind of worlds on BDS, right? Because BDS doesn't actually have the support.
Reason for that. It is trying to protect the IP of our creators. And Reed, I can always count on you to throw me curveballs, because I know you come from some of the farthest reaches of what is possible with the PDB. I do think that like decrypting worlds or anything related to decrypting worlds is pretty sensitive, and I kind of agree with some of the comments here. Like there are shorter term things that we need to really try to get nailed down first. All right. I think we are good for the moment, or well, I shouldn't say that. We are not good. We have a lot of work to do, but I do appreciate folks' initial thoughts here. I am going to open up a couple of channels. I would like to really understand, and like I said, I'd love to get a couple of initial asks from the community if there's additional information that we can start to share with you, or at least consider sharing. And I'm going to be working with the internal folks here to try again, as we're saying, to build out something of a proposal where I can start to try to bring some resources to bear so that we can have not just me showing up on Monday mornings, but actually have some dedicated folks that can start working as liaisons between the community and the internal Mojang folks. So appreciate everyone coming out, taking time. And we will continue the conversation, and we'll check back with you async in the Discord, and we will see you again on Monday. Thank you, everybody.